Oh no, we're recording now. I'm not
Yeah,
using
that's
this.
fine. All right, easy peasy. So today I'm going to be walking you through DigitalWorld Local Torment, which is a pretty sick VulnHub box, and it's crashed already. I'm gonna restart it. All right, start the VM, and then I will share my, not my screen, my Kali. So when you set up this stuff, make sure your virtual machines are on that network. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to communicate with it. So the first thing we're going to do is host discovery and start off by finding out your own IP address 10.0.2.15, and then you can do an nmap sp to skip the port scan. Then you go on your own subnet 10.0.2 and then put a wildcard to discover the hosts on your thing. There's 1, which is the gateway. There's 15, which is us over here, and then there's 5, which if you're Sherlock Holmes, you'll be able to figure out that it's the machine we're trying to target. So we'll do a quick nmap scan, sc, sv, enumerate all versions, default scripts. You can output all formats. I'm not going to because I've pre-computed this. And then we go 10.0.2.5. We can scan this. It might take a while. I'll open up the nmap scans from before. And so we pull up the results here. When that's done, there's an FTP server, which has a bunch of random stuff here. There is anonymous access, I think, might say somewhere. Yes, anonymous FTP login and allowed. So we're going to look at that later and then try to nab some interesting files, see what's going on there. And then the next one is SSH. So we know there's that option. SMTP, which is very useful for user enumeration. Once we get around to that, there's a web server, which is always cool to look at. There's RPC over here, and RPC info shows that there's some NFS shares that we can look at. If you looked at my Volnix walkthrough, that was all about exploiting NFS shares. So we'll do a little bit of that here, but it's not as central to the box as it was back then. There's SMB, Samba, which we can look at. There's some random IMAP, ICUP, some dumb shit like that. Samba, SMD as well. Then there's Cups 2.2, which is a printer server, and this also has an HTTP server, so we'll take a look at that with our browser. There's more NFS stuff, and then there's an IRC daemon running on these 3 ports, which is interesting, and we can take a look at that. There's the SMB information here, nothing too interesting. So I guess we'll start from the top and then go down just to be thorough. We will do the FTP anonymous access. So we'll just go FTP 10.0.2.5, type in anonymous as our name, and then just smash the keyboard for password. We can ls, and then we'll see all this stuff. There's some interesting backup files, but if we try to get them, we'll do mget wildcards.back. Yes. And you can't do that. You don't have permissions. You're unable to get that, which would be nice if it were possible, but it's not. Something you might miss just from looking at this is not showing the hidden files. So if you go lsla or ls-lah, you can see there's some random configuration directories. Most of these are empty, but if you look at these 2, they were changed in 2019 when the others were changed in 2018. So we will take a look at those, and then there will be some stuff in there. If we cd NGIRCD and we show the stuff in there, we have channels, which is a file. So we'll just get channels, and then we see it appears on our desktop over here. So we can see there are 2 channels, games and tormented printer. I want to look at that because I'm a gamer and there might be free games I can download legally from this IRC. And then there's tormented printer, so we'll look at that as well. And the other directory is .ssh. You should always look for this because there might be private keys in there that could allow you to authenticate through SSH. So we'll go back and then go into the SSH directory. So we'll do that, and then there's IDRSA, which is a private key. So we'll just get that. And then we have the private key over here for our use. Password locked, yeah, whatever, we don't care. We have that, and then we can just exit, since that's pretty much all we can look at in FTP. So then there's SSH. You can try going with the private key, but there's a few other things you need, so we'll keep moving on. There's SMTP. We'll leave that for later when we have a more information regarding the users we want to enumerate. So we'll take a look at the HTTP server. We'll just open up Firefox and then go to 10.0.2.5, and you can see it's just the default Apache page. So with every web server, I just like to run dirbust and run nicto. So with nicto, we'll go nicto-h 10.0.2.5, and then it will do some stuff there. And then dirbuster. Is it open? There we go. We'll go HTTP 10.0.2.5, and go fast. We want to go all the way, except probably not. We'll go 175 because we don't want to crash it. And then select a list, which will be, as always, user share word lists. And nicto's done. Didn't find anything. It's kind of garbage. No real vulnerabilities. Not nicto's garbage. This web server's garbage. It's not fun. Nicto's great, and it'll find you a lot of stuff. And you run a medium directory list. That could be recursive. Because it's Apache, we'll search PHP, type like txt files and I don't know, shell scripts, BRA files, which don't exist. Doesn't really matter because I've done this before. And we're not going to let this run for like 4 hours. Pretty much the only things that exist here, if you go like to anything, you get this picture, which is very funny. I'll come back to that. And then there's a thing called secret, which does pain come before sufferance or sufferance before pain. I think there's like an OSCP thing that's useless, doesn't really help. But I like this because it reminds me of 2007, like the early days of the internet, where everything was just really unfunny and terrible memes, but everyone laughed at them. Let's just look at this site, bestdemotivationalposters.com. So when you get a text file, I also like to just do some basic steg, because it is a CTF after all. And then we can take a look at the file, do some basic stuff like file, whatever. It is a JPEG. We can look at it with strings. There's nothing in there. We can use EXIF tool. And there's still nothing in there. Sort of a dead end, but every time there's like a photo like this in a CTF, I kind of like just checking it out a bit. And that's pretty much all we're going to get out of the web. It's basically a dead end, but it's good to know what to do when you come across these things. So the next one we're going to look at is the NFS share. So harkening back to the Vulnix walkthrough I did, we can pretty much just do show mount. I think you're going to have to install this on Kali. I don't remember, but it's in NFS-common or NFS-utils or something. You can look it up. I didn't download it. What? Wouldn't be that. NFS-common. Oh wait, you have to be sudo to use it actually. I forget. There we go. So we get two things in the export list, which is a public directory and torture. And so what we're going to do is just create our own file, make dear torture, make our own directory, and we can mount file type NFS at, what's the syntax? Mount NFS, so 10.0.2.5, colon, with our torture, and we can put that in sudo. Keep forgetting sudo. Remember to say please and sudo before you do these things. It's good manners. I think it's crashed again. Get used to it. It's going to keep crashing. I hate this box. It only takes like 10 seconds. And we can stop that and then restart. And it should be done. There we go. So just try that again, and it succeeded. And if we go into torture, yay, nothing. We win nothing. That's the final prize. But if we try make dear public and then do that, we can look in public and what? I don't know why that thing's going. Desktop. Oh, there we go. The GUI utility just sucks and it's slow. So if you ls, you can see all this stuff here. If you go ls-la, they're all empty. I think that's just a permission thing. We don't have access to see these files, but it does point us towards the printer. So the printer service cups 2.2 will be interesting to look at once we get around to it. So we'll keep this in mind as we move on because there's nothing much else we can do. We can look at Samba, which usually has some vulnerabilities associated with it. Nmap didn't pick any up, but some extra stuff you can do is like SMB map. I think you just put the thing 2.5 host. What? No, it just took like 5 years and finally popped up. So we do that. We don't get anything out of it. We can take a more hands-on manual look if we use SMB client. And that takes away the password prompt because we don't know anything. L is for list. And then we have to do 4 backslashes because I hate Bill Gates. I will fight him in the ring. And we see that access is denied. So it looks like it's arranged with some sort of permissions that prevents us from looking at it. You can do some vulnerability scans for things like Eternal Blue or whatever those kitty exploits are. Sometimes you'll get pops, especially on easier boxes, but here that's not the case. So SMB is a bit of a dead end for us now. So we'll move on. IMAP, I think it's just like some sort of email thing. It's kind of useless. So we'll look at the printer utility for cups 2.2, and it does have a HTTP server. So we'll just look at that through Firefox. And since it's running on port 631, what we'll just do is connect to 10.0.2.5 and then 631. And we can see basically default page. We can go to administration. We can try to add printers, but it doesn't work. And some of the other things this doesn't actually do anything. I think you need admin permissions to do all of this stuff. And yeah, you can try all of this. It's kind of useless. Try and cancel this. We don't have admin position, so none of this functionality is actually going to work. So you might be thinking this is useless. What are we going to do with this? We can't change anything. But what we do get out of this, even if we can't directly exploit it, is to take the names of the people's printers and then use that with, say, SMTP or some sort of other enumeration method to try to find out more information or get access to the machine. So there's getting more similar to what we do in the real world, like harvesting metadata and using OSINT to get a list of names and usernames, emails, email addresses, so we can carry out attacks like password spraying, things like that. But you're not going to see any of that in CTF competitions really, but it's the same sort of idea. You can look for useful information, especially where it doesn't seem like it might be directly useful. So we'll just write those in a file. Create empty file. Names. I'm going to type all of these out. Albert. I feel bad for this guy's name. Churlt. Sorry for any Churls out there if I insulted your country, but it's pretty funny to me. Ethan, Ava, Genevieve, Govinda, Sani. That's right, yes. I think the machine crashed again, but we'll finish this. Patrick, Chinyi, Chu, Roland, and Sarah, whatever. Now we have a list of names, and we'll just port onto that. There's not much else we can do. When we sick, you can try to SQL inject and waste your time because that doesn't exist here. So now we'll look at the next thing down on the scan, which is the NGIRCD, which is the IRC daemon running on the server. And I think it's the most interesting part of the thing because you don't see IRC exploits regularly. This is sort of CTF. It's nothing you'll find in the real world. You can install hex chat. No, not exe to hex. Do hex chat. And I'm going to remove this network because I already did it. So we'll add a network, call it Torment, and then we will edit it. So we are going to change new server to the IP address of the box. Edit. There we go. And what was the password? Oh yeah, so we don't know the password to actually connect to the server. And the first thing you do when you don't know the password is type in password. That doesn't work, by the way, but it's good practice and you'll be surprised at how many times that works. Or like admin password, things like that. So we know it's running NGIRC daemon. So what we can do is look up the default password. And you will find the actual configuration file. So you can get this file by installing the daemon yourself and then just looking through the files associated with the program. But we're lazy, so we just Google it. And we see the password here. We all like Debian. I do not like Debian, but we can go ahead with this and type in the password. We all like Debian. And then we can try to connect. So we connected successfully, and now we can try join channels. I like free games, so let's join the games channel, which we got from the channels file in the FTP server. And we joined games. I'm type hello. Can we type? Are we allowed to type? Hello. Would anyone, I don't know why the text doesn't show, like, type, would anyone like to play CSGO? SCGO, no, not CSGO, SCGO. Looks like there's a new StarCraft game at SC Go. I'd like some people to form a team, but there's nothing in here. So we can try join the other server or the other channel, which is Tormented Printer. And we can see that they post the passphrase over here like an absolute dunce, and we're going to destroy them. Most machines have a super secure key and a long passphrase. So we'll remember this one. And then now we have a whole bunch of different pieces. We have the SSH key, we have a list of names, and we have some printer passwords. So we have to now use the list of names we created with SMTP to try and enumerate which ones are actually on the system. So there's a tool, user enum. All of the write-ups I saw of this use Metasploit. I don't even know why, because using Metasploit to enumerate SMTP is literally slower than just using this utility. So yeah, I don't know. But we can type in basically SMTP user enum method verify, and then we give the list, which is names, and then we set the target 10.0.2.5. Hopefully the machine didn't crash. I think it crashed. I'm going to restart. And we can forget that. Take about 10 seconds.
While that's happening, out of curiosity, do you know what the difference is between SMTP user enum and enum for Linux? Because the output so far, it looks eerily similar.
Enum for Linux does a bunch of extra stuff, so it's not specifically on SMTP. I don't think it even does SMTP. It enumerates things like SMB shares, which is one of the tools you can use. So if we run enum for Linux, is it A? Yeah, it tests for things like the SMB null session and enumerates things like that. So it's for an entirely different service. It doesn't do SMTP. And also there's a single line on the banner here while there is a double line. So it's completely different.
Oh, I see, my mistake, sorry.
A lot of things look like this. It's pretty much the same format. There is one thing I will show you that actually looks really nice for an enumeration program. We'll use that for privilege escalation, and isn't something I see talked about a lot. So this is backup. And do this, and yeah, it finds that Patrick and Chu exist. So the rest of the people are either fake or not important. And now we have a whole bunch of pieces we can put together to try to connect to the server. So I'll open up terminal here, and then we can go SSH, ID. First thing we need to do is set the permissions correctly. Otherwise, OpenSSH will yell at you if you try to connect with a private key with bad permissions. So now we can do ID RSA and then Patrick 2.5 here. And then it asks us for a passphrase, because remember before we tried to click on it and it asks us for a passphrase. So we'll try most. I hate this because you're typing words, but you're not putting spaces between the words. So you always type the wrong thing. This might take 5 tries. There we go. Most machines have a super secure key and a long passphrase. First try, I'm the best. Kobe Bryant, LeBron James. I'm in the Hall of Fame. So yeah, now we have access as Patrick. Patrick is kind of lame, so we want to be more than Patrick. This one tool I really like is called, so you all know like the Linux Privesk checker and all those scripts. So So that you appreciate this script, I'm actually going to use Linux Privesc checker. How much better this is. There's also doing it manually, which I recommend you do when you first start off, so you know actually what to look out for and what things are doing. There's good tutorials like milk Privesc. Yeah, there's like got milk. There's Sushant 747. You can just Google this stuff. There's I recommend going through these first. But yeah, once you've got it down, you know how things work. You can use tools like this. And I'll just copy this. And Patrick can wget this thing. And then we will execute. Mod, and then we can. What? I didn't know that. It turns the character into a weird thing. Now we can do this. And look at all of that. This is why this sucks. Who wants to read all of this? Most of this is literally useless and just listing every single program installed on this machine. I don't want to read that because I'm barely literate as is. So what we're going to do is use Linux Smart Enumeration. And they helpfully provide a one-liner to do all that. We'll get that instead. And then run it. We don't know the current user password. We know the password for the SSH key, but not the user password. So this has some really nice stuff. If there's nothing, it doesn't show you anything. It only shows you the important stuff, which is excellent. So there's a bunch of things here. We notice that we are allowed to basically reboot, power off the system, those sorts of things. And there's nothing else in sudo-l. So we can look down. This looks very sus. Linux Privesc Checker also misses this. So in addition to giving you a whole bunch of useless information, it also sucks and misses some important stuff. So this shows that there is a writable root-owned file, which is important, the Apache 2 configuration file. So we'll keep that in mind. And we can also look at some other stuff. Yeah, the rest of it's not so important. So we will look at this here. Well, basically, nano, because it doesn't have Vim, nano etc apache2.conf. And we can see the configuration file here, and there is one setting. I ignore this, I put this here. How do I cut? Control K, that's dumb. But yeah, so this is what the default file looks like. It sets a user and sets a group, which is the permissions with which your Apache server will run when it's a restart. So what's tempting to do is user root, group root. This doesn't actually work because of how the security stuff works, which is probably a good idea. But we take a bit of a sneaky roundabout, which is we remember the other user chew, which we enumerated through SMTP. So we can run the Apache web server with the permissions of this chew user. And we just hope that he's some bigwig and not like the janitor and has even less permissions than this guy. So we'll save that. And so what we're going to do is reboot the server, and then the server will run with the permissions of user chew. And we're going to exploit that by getting the reverse shell ready. So when the server executes the reverse shell, it won't execute with www data, which is the default Apache user permissions. It will execute the reverse shell with choose permissions. So we're going to do pentester monkey php reverse shell. And I hate Firefox because, no, I don't hate Firefox. Whoops. I don't know why it's doing that. Maybe I do hate Firefox. But I clicked on these websites before and it was like, there are malicious things on this website, don't go to it. I don't know why it's designed to work now, but yeah, we have the PHP reverse shell. So we'll just take the raw URL, Control U. We'll take the URL and then we'll get it like we did before. Actually, we'll go to the web directory, which is cd var, I think, www public HTML. Yeah, so then we see the stuff we saw when we go to the web browser, which is the default index page, the shell, which I put there before. It doesn't come with the shell. It's not that easy. There's the secret, which we saw before, and then torment.jpg. So everything you see when you go to a website is pretty much in this HTML directory. I will remove the PHP reverse shell. Yeah, and then we're pretty much just going to, we get this. Wait, no, torment.jpg, because I highlighted it. There we go, and then we'll do that, set our IP. No, that's the machine. We're 15, I think, and then we'll just save that. And then we can set up a listener, netcat lvnp, reverse connection listen on port 1234, which I think we had. And then we can do sudo reboot. No, wait, forget the command. Scroll up. In systemctl. Authentications required. I don't know why it's doing that. This is dumb. I think the machine crashed again. All right, looks like we won't need, oh, maybe we will. No, we won't. But yeah, so basically you run that. I think sudo bin systemctl reboot. I should have done that. But you do that and the machine restarts. I won't show that because basically the machine crashed and did it for us. Yeah, so now it's restarting again. We can forget about this. And we can go to the website. /php reverse shell.php and do that. And then we access, we have a reverse shell connection over here. So there's a bunch of stuff we can do. Oh yeah, we'll check ID. So it shows we are true instead of www data, which is the usual Apache user permissions. And from here, we can try to get an actual shell, which is Python something, 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 the command here. Python spawn. Python C import pty, import pty dot. I think that's right. So we'll do that, and then it will give us like a proper bash shell with prompt. We can see that we're still true, and we have like actual good input and output. So we can do the same thing again with downloading the enum script, but once you go through those guides and stuff, there are a few things you can just learn by heart and then just do them whenever you get some sort of shell access. So pretty much first thing you'd always want to do is sudo-l, showing the programs you can run as root. And over here we see a very suspicious, you can run Python as a root. I don't know if this is the sort of stuff Richard covered in this Python workshop, but you have this thing, and then we can pretty much do the exact same thing we did before, except with sudo to spawn a root shell. So now we're root at Torment. We can go who am I root and then cd cat everything. And then, yeah, so that's pretty much the walkthrough. tangentially related to the picture on the web server. It's like CN blogs. When I was looking at other write-ups to see if there were any tricks I missed or any cool stuff I looked at, found this website, which is a nice Easter egg. And every time you go into it, there's a new picture. It's real nice. This is a great write-up website. For some reason, this box, I think I've only been able to find 2 different write-ups of it, and this is one of them, and it's in Chinese. But a secret Easter egg, I saw this in the corner, and like she follows where your mouse cursor is, and if you click a bunch, she'll talk. All right, never mind. She doesn't want to talk. Trust me, she talks. She says some shit like "nande, nani something fucking I don't know. I don't speak moon runes, but yeah, that's my walkthrough of this box. I hope you learned something. If not, I just hope you thought it was funny. But yeah, it's a great box. The creator DigitalWorld.local has a bunch of other boxes. Oops, not locus. Local. Yeah, so this guy makes a bunch of really good boxes like Joy, which is supposed to be the nice version of Torment. I haven't done Joy. Mercy is a good box. All of these tend to lean towards more intermediate / advanced difficulties, but they're quite OSCP-like, so they're really good practice to get in. Although Hack the Box is good, there's a lot of really good stuff on VulnHub as well, and you also don't have to pay to do retired machines. So I highly recommend checking out this creator as well as other stuff on VulnHub. And I think that should be it.